On our 25th wedding anniversary night, as the warm golden lights bounced off wine glasses and the music swelled, my husband stepped onto the stage with a faint smile, pointed at my face, and declared, "25 years is enough. I want someone younger, and you should move out of this condo tomorrow." The entire ballroom fell silent. I stayed seated, gripping my glass so tightly my nails cut my skin, blood seeping into the white lace. He forgot the condo was my wedding gift from my parents, and I've never let anyone take it from me. As Martin bent down to sign the divorce papers amid the whispers, I stood, took the mic, my voice trembling but firm. "Thank you for the anniversary gift, but you're not the only one with plans tonight." His eyes froze when I pulled out a silver hair clip inside. It was a secret that could wipe out his life. If you're still listening, tell me where you're watching from. Every comment you leave is another mark in this journey. And if this story has touched you, don't forget to hit like so it can reach even further. I still remember that morning clearly. Everything started with something off. Martin got up earlier than usual. He put roses in a vase, poured me a cup of coffee, and set it down gently like he was playing the model husband. "Good morning, Kathy," he said, with such a forced smile I wanted to ask outright, "What are you hiding from me?" The cologne he wore that day wasn't my usual, not the woody scent he'd used for 10 years, but something sweet and sharp, the kind women in their 30s tend to like. When he went to shower, I caught a glimpse of his phone lighting up, "Call G" at 11 a.m. Just that, one small line. But it made my heart go cold. I asked casually, light as air, "Who's G?" Martin hesitated. His eyes flicked past me and then shifted away, his smile gliding back in place. "Oh, Grayson, a partner in Seattle. He wants to talk about a new project. But I've known Martin for more than 25 years. I know every habit, every small tell." And I saw it, his left eyelid twitch. The familiar sign whenever Martin lies. I didn't ask more. I just smiled and turned away, hiding my clenched hands. Around noon, Lorraine, my mother-in-law, came by. She showed up like always, fur coat, triple-strand pearls, heavy Chanel perfume. "Catherine, dear," she sang sweetly, "I just stopped by to see how you're getting the party ready." I invited her to sit, poured tea, and tried to keep it polite. She took a sip, her eyes sweeping the living room as if appraising each item's value. "This condo is still lovely, isn't it?" she said, tone floating. "Your parents really knew how to pick a wedding gift." I smiled and answered, "Yes, they always wanted me to have a safe place to come home to." She gave a thin smile. "Safe? In this life, nothing is truly yours without papers in hand. Speaking of, you still have the Capitol Hill condo title, right?" I paused and looked straight at her. "Same place as always, Mother, in the safe." "Ah, good. You know, with Martin's age now 55 and no grandbabies yet, it's a bit sad. I think, if you two don't have children, maybe you should write a will in favor of my nephews, just in case." I smiled, but inside I went ice cold. "Your nephews?" "Yes, they're very good boys. I'm only thinking about the future, dear." When Lorraine left, her perfume still hanging in the air, I sat stunned for a long while. Everything started to fit together like a dark jigsaw puzzle. Martin's call at 3 a.m. The mysterious appointment with G. My mother-in-law asking about the house papers. A plan was being laid out carefully, and I was the target. That evening, I opened Martin's laptop. He'd changed the old password, our wedding date, 0703988, no luck. I tried it reversed, 893070, and got in. When the browser history came up, my chest tightened. A string of searches. How to keep the house in a divorce. Legal tricks for asset division. How to force wife to sign a waiver. I sat frozen. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning to erase me. Around 8 p.m., The phone rang. It was Paige, my college best friend. "Kathy, I have to tell you this. I just saw Martin at City Center, D.C. with a blonde. They were picking out engagement rings." I went silent, my hands turning numb. "What did she look like?" I asked. "About 30. Pretty in a fake way, big curls, fur coat." She was laughing, clinging to his arm. "Kathy, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, low. "I just need more time." I didn't sleep that night. I sat alone by the window, watching the rain fall over our quiet Capitol Hill street. 25 years, more than half a life. From the bright young woman I was, to a 55-year-old with lines at my eyes, still loyal, still believing in marriage. And now the man I trusted most was calculating how to take the home my parents left me. I knew Martin wouldn't strike quietly. He loves a spectacle. He would choose a public stage where he could put me down in front of everyone, turn me into the pitiful weak one. And nowhere fit better than our 25th anniversary party, packed with friends, coworkers, and family. The very party that I, the foolish wife, had spent a month preparing. I gave a thin smile. "Fine," I told myself. "If you want theater, I'll give you theater. But this play, I'm writing the script." The next morning, I started prepping. Not dresses or makeup strategy. I reopened Martin's laptop, selected the emails, messages, and browser history tied to the divorce, and copied them to a small USB. I tucked it into the silver hair clip I always wear out my mother's gift, now turned into a counterattack weapon. I also started looking for legal allies. I thought of Brianna Patel, a college friend who's now a family attorney in Georgetown. I didn't say everything, just sent one line. "Bri, I need to talk about someone trying to take my home." I put down my phone and looked up at the mirror. The woman, there with silver strands in brown hair, eyes full of resolve, was no longer the gentle Catherine from 25 years ago. I knew that if I wanted to keep it all, I had to hit back. When Martin came home, he kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. "Wear the blue dress tonight, Kathy. We're going to have a night to remember," he said, in a syrupy tone that almost made me laugh. I answered lightly, "Yes, a night to remember." That evening, I rested my hand on my purse, feeling the USB hidden in the hair clip still safe. Inside my bag were copies of the condo papers, screenshots, bank statements, and a letter I hadn't sent to Brianna. When I entered the Willard Hotel's ballroom, the golden lights shimmered off crystal glasses, and laughter rose around me. Everyone thought this was a celebration of lasting love, but I knew tonight was a battlefield. I adjusted my hair clip, took a deep breath, and smiled as I stepped into the light. No one in that room, not even Martin, knew the woman they saw as the victim was about to flip the table. And with that, the game began. I didn't sleep that night. After the anniversary party, Martin acted like nothing had happened. He showered, put on jazz, poured a glass of wine, and toasted to the next 25 years, as if the public humiliation never occurred. But I knew that smile was just a mask for a colder plan. Around 2 a.m., I heard the bedroom door open slightly. I held my breath, lay still, and pretended to sleep. Hallway light fell across Martin's face as he slipped out. He whispered, low and urgent, as he walked away from the bedroom. I slid to the door, close enough to hear. "We have to stick to the script, Mom," he said softly but clearly. "She won't suspect a thing." Lorraine's voice came through the line, faint but unmistakable. "Everything must look natural. After the party, you get her to sign the papers. Don't go soft, Martin. The quieter she is, the easier it is." I heard him answer briefly, "I know." Then his steps came back, and he lay down like he'd never left. I squeezed my eyes shut, feeling my heart pound. Script. They were acting in my own life. The next morning, Martin left early, said he had a meeting with partners. He kissed my forehead lightly, a cold, perfunctory touch. When the door clicked shut, the condo went silent. I sat up, the wave of suspicion rising like a tide. On the dining table, he'd left his phone. The screen was black, but after a few minutes, a notification popped up: voicemail. I hadn't planned to listen, but my hands moved before my brain. I hit speaker. A man's voice played dry and firm. "Dee, I already spoke with Mrs. Lorraine. Everything can be arranged. What matters is she signs the waiver of ownership. After that, the condo will be yours. G. Hale. G. Hale." I remembered instantly. The G. in Martin's contacts. The one he called Grayson, a Seattle partner. Not a partner. A divorce lawyer. It felt like someone had slapped me hard across the face. I picked up the phone. 6-digit passcode. I tried our wedding date wrong, his birthday wrong. Then a memory flashed. When Paige told me the girl named Tessa picked rings with Martin, she mentioned Tessa's birthday is on March 8th, International Women's Day. I entered 0308 plus. Martin's birth year digits 030865. The phone opened. I took a breath, then started reading. The first text showed up like a cold blade. "Tessa, after the anniversary, we're moving into that condo, right? I already picked the curtain color. Martin. Of course. It'll all be ours. My mom has the lawyer covered. She suspects nothing." I scrolled message after message, full of hints, full of contempt. "Don't forget the mic. I want to see her face when you say it. She still thinks you love her." Poor thing. They were planning to humiliate me publicly so I'd sign away my rights, weaponizing shame, pride, and the crowd. I didn't cry. I sat up straight, opened settings, uploaded all the messages, photos, and call logs to my personal iCloud, then copied another set to the USB hidden in the silver hair clip. Before turning off the phone, I replayed Lorraine's short recording. "As long as she signs, everything's clean. I want to see the transfer papers before Monday." Transfer papers. I repeated it in my head, feeling the chill spread. They didn't just want the condo, they wanted to strip my identity. I needed help. And I knew there was only one person I could trust. Brianna Patel, my college classmate, now a well-known family lawyer in D.C. I called her. "Catherine? Oh my God, how long has it been? You sound different, what's going on?" I kept my voice steady. "Bree, I need to see you. As soon as possible. Can we do lunch today?" "Not lunch, but 4 p.m. works. My office is still on Massachusetts Avenue." "Thanks, Bree. And please don't mention this call to anyone." Her voice softened. "Catherine, you're worrying me, but okay, I'll keep it quiet." I hung up and pressed my forehead to my hand. It felt like I'd finally admitted to myself this marriage was truly over. At Brianna's office, I still looked like any ordinary woman. Beige coat, neat purse, no makeup. But inside, I was a storm. Her office faced a park, tidy and warm. Brianna came out and hugged me tightly. "You look the same, Kathy," she said, searching my eyes. "But you're hiding something, aren't you?" I sat, looked around, and started telling it. Every detail. The middle of the night call, the G. Hale voicemail, Tessa's birthday, the condo. She listened without interrupting. Sometimes she nodded, sometimes she jotted a note. When I finished, Brianna exhaled. "It sounds like a movie script, but unfortunately I know this type. You're up against someone who's been coached. G. Hale is a notorious divorce lawyer. And Lorraine, your mother-in-law, right? She's likely the architect." I stayed quiet. "Now listen to me," Brianna continued. "First, don't let them know you know. Act like nothing's wrong. They only have power if you lose your composure." I nodded. "Second, gather evidence. You've backed up the messages good. If you can, Record conversations. The more, the better. I filed away each word. Third, she said slowly, separate finances. Do you have your own account? I will today. Do it. And don't leave a trail they can see. Brianna leaned back, thoughtful. Catherine, I have to ask the Capitol Hill condo. Where did the original money come from? My parents, I answered immediately. They bought it as a wedding gift. My name was on the deed first. Martin was added later. Her eyebrows rose. Do you have a copy of the certificate? Yes. At home. Perfect. If we prove it's premarital property, they can't touch it. It felt like someone had cracked open a door to light. But we'll need a lawyer specializing in marital real estate to confirm, Brianna said. Do you remember who handled the paperwork back then? I closed my eyes to recall. The day we signed for the condo, there was a silver-haired man with round glasses and a calm voice. Mr. Whitman, I blurted. He handled everything. His office is on M Street. Great, Brianna said. See him immediately. If he still has the file, that's your legal shield. I nodded and wrote down the address. Before I left, Brianna took my hand. Catherine, hear me. Don't let them turn you into a victim. They're used to you being quiet, soft. Now show them a different Catherine, the one with reason, proof, and the law on her side. I smiled lightly, but inside, the fire was lit. On the way back, D.C.'s sky was dull. Dry leaves blew along the sidewalk. I pulled into a familiar cafe and jotted a pull dar. Quick list. 1. Open a separate account. 2. Call Mr. Whitman. 3. Print copies of house papers. 4. Back up more data to USB. 5. Send Brianna the financial summary. I closed the notebook and looked through the window. Rain had started light but persistent. In the glass, I saw my reflection. No more fear in my eyes, only clarity and cool. They thought I'd break. But they didn't know the woman they were about to betray was the woman who had learned to stand up from betrayal. I started the car, signaled left, and headed for M Street where I'd see Mr. Whitman again, and where my first legal shield would take shape. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. Fall in D.C. was cold and damp, a white haze on rooftops across the street. I made coffee, put on a knit coat, and left while Martin was still asleep. He said he had an important meeting tonight and would be home late. I just nodded. Any words now could become a double-edged knife. I drove to Mr. Whitman's office on M Street, the old red brick building, worn but solid, like the man I was about to see. He'd handled my condo purchase 25 years ago. I only hoped he still had the records. When I entered, the receptionist recognized my name and smiled. Mr. Whitman is still on the 3rd floor, Miss Catherine. He'll be happy to see you. 3 flights of creaking wooden stairs. The office door was ajar, the smell of old paper and oak washing out. Catherine Miller. My goodness, how many years has it been? Mr. Whitman's voice was warm and honest, just like him. His hair was nearly all white now, but his posture was straight and his eyes sharp. I shook his hand and kept my tone steady. It's been a while, Mr. Whitman. I need your help with a small thing, actually, a very important thing. Go on, the young lady from back then, he chuckled, motioning me to sit. I remember you and Martin. You chose the condo in Capitol Hill, right? Yes. I nodded. But, now, I need to confirm the original funding when we bought it. He frowned slightly, unlocked an old file cabinet. The thick folders were neatly arranged, each drawer labeled by year in a slanted hand. He flipped a few and stopped. Here we are, July 1999. Catherine Miller wire transfer directly from First Federal Bank, account holders Mr. and Mrs. Miller. I held my breath. Is that exact, sir? He pushed his glasses up, double-checked, and nodded. No mistake. The purchase funds came from your parents' account. And on the first deed, only Catherine Miller appears. 2 months after marriage, I received a request to add Martin Cole as a second co-owner, not a purchaser. I went quiet for a few seconds. That single detail felt like a beam of light cutting through heavy clouds. What does that mean? I hesitated. If there's a divorce? He finished for me. It means the condo is considered your premarital property. Martin can only claim any increased value if he proves he invested in major structural renovations like a new roof, structural upgrades. If it was only cosmetic, he has no claim. I smiled in a way I hadn't in years. Do you still have the originals? Of course. I'll print you a stamped copy. Come back tomorrow afternoon. I'll have it ready. I stood and shook his hand, feeling warmth return to my palm. Thank you, Mr. Whitman. You just saved me from a nightmare. He smiled kindly. No, Catherine. I only helped you recall the truth, something that never belonged to anyone but you. Driving back, the rain started again. I turned on some music, but my mind kept turning. If the condo is proven premarital, Martin can't take it even with a team of lawyers. I gripped the wheel and told myself, this is the first shield. Before going home, I stopped at the bank. I asked to open a new account in my name only. I want my monthly salary and my personal savings moved. Here, I said. The banker looked at me and gave a professional smile. Would you like statements mailed to your home? No, I said quickly. Email only, to my personal address. A small decision, but I knew it was the first step toward freedom. When I got home, Martin was in front of the mirror, fixing his tie. He turned and looked me up and down. You should change your hairstyle, he said, with a hint of boredom, and maybe go to a spa. You look tired. I set my bag on the table and kept my voice calm. I just had a long day, that's all. Martin came closer and put a hand on my shoulder, the familiar touch that now made my skin crawl. Catherine, you have to understand. We men still like women who take care of themselves. You don't want to be compared to women in their 30s, right? He spoke as if each word were a knife. I smiled, picked up the magazine he'd tossed onto the table, and thought only, keep talking, Martin. The more, the better. In my coat pocket, the tiny recorder had been on since before I walked in. Every word, his jabs at my looks, the comparisons to younger women was captured, clearly, word for word. He had no idea. When Martin left, I sat down, opened my phone, and saved the audio file to a private iCloud folder. I titled it Evidence #3, Verbal and Emotional Abuse. I had messages, calls, and now voice. 3 pieces for a complete picture. In the evening, while I was putting together a simple meal, my phone pinged with a new email. From the Willard Hotel. Subject, Event Confirmation, Cole Anniversary. I opened it and nearly choked. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Cole, we confirm the package for 100 guests at the Grand Ballroom, including dinner, wine, and a live band. Total cost, $47,000. The amount has been paid in full from the joint account ending in 4,472. I leaned back in my chair. $47,000. The savings I'd built up over 2 years. And he spent it not to honor our marriage, but to bury me in humiliation. I took a deep breath and picked up a pen. An old brown leather notebook, Journal of Facts. I wrote the header, Battle List, Assets, Evidence, Witnesses. 1. Assets. Capitol Hill Condo confirm premarital source, Whitman. Personal account at First Federal open today, USB and iCloud holding evidence. 2. Evidence. Recording of the call between Martin and Lorraine. Martin Tessa messages. Event email for $47,000 from the joint account. Insults and personal put-downs, tonight's recording. 3. Witnesses. Brianna Patel, attorney, can confirm the staged divorce plan. Mr. Whitman, the original condo file preparer. Paige, my friend, who saw Martin with Tessa. I underlined the last line and added, "Don't cry in front of the crowd, only the truth." I closed the notebook, turned off the light, and sat in the dark. Outside, rain tapped on the awning. I heard every drop like a countdown. Martin thought I was weak, that I'd tremble when pushed out of my home. He didn't know I already had a legal shield, clear evidence, and iron resolve. When lightning flashed outside the window, I caught my reflection in the glass. My eyes no longer belonged to a desperate wife. They were the eyes of a woman ready to strike back. On Monday morning, as soon as I opened the door to grab the paper, I saw a thick envelope stamped deep red with Notariat Zurich, a Swiss notary office. I frowned. I didn't know anyone there. I opened it. 3 documents slid onto the table. The first line froze me for a few seconds. Regarding the inheritance of Mrs. Margaret Adler, Swiss citizen, residing in Zurich. Aunt Margaret. My maternal great-aunt single, loved to travel, rarely in touch but always sent a postcard every Christmas. She used to joke that if I didn't give up on marriage, I should at least keep an escape route. For myself. I had laughed then. Now her words rang in my head like a prophecy. I read every line carefully. Condo in Zurich, Bahnhofstrasse, 42. Value 1,200,000 CHF. Credit Suisse bank account, 890,000 CHF. Vacation condo in Miami Beach, Florida, $1,300,000. Total value over $3 million. And I am the sole heir. I let the paper fall and sat still. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, laying trembling specks across my hands. $3 million. Enough that I'd never have to bow to anyone again, not even Martin. I breathed in and forced myself to steady. This wasn't just luck. This was a second exit, arriving exactly when I needed it most. I called Brianna right away, my voice still shaking. "Bri, I just got an inheritance letter from Aunt Margaret," she passed. She left me property, a condo in Zurich, one in Miami, and a bank account. On the line, Brianna went quiet for a few seconds. "What did you say? Zurich? Miami? Yeah, about $3 million total. Catherine," she blurted, "do you understand? This is the perfect escape ticket. But the most important thing, don't tell anyone. I plan to keep it quiet." "Good. And you need to immediately open a personal account to receive the funds. Don't let any transaction touch the joint account. Martin must not know." I wrote down every word. "Bri," I said slowly, "I think this will be Plan B. If they drag me out of the house, I'll go to Miami right away." "Start over." "Exactly," Brianna said. "You'll have a condo, money, independence. But first, for legal protection, I'll send a preservation notice to the bank to keep them from touching joint funds until the court rules." She promised to handle it that day. I exhaled, lighter than I'd felt in weeks finally. Something solid under my feet. That afternoon, I went to First Federal to open a multi-currency personal account. The manager was a middle-aged woman with a short blonde cut, professional but warm eyes. "I'd like to open a personal account in US dollars and CHF, I said, keeping my voice even. "You want a fully private personal account?" "Completely private." I signed with sweaty palms. When she finished printing the forms, I thanked her and asked, "If there's a wire from Switzerland, what do I need to do?" "Just provide this SWIFT code and IBAN info. The system will auto-convert, and no one but you will have access." I folded the paper and tucked it into my bag. A small step, but I knew I'd just laid the first brick of my independence. The next day, I went to the Swiss Consulate General in Washington, D.C., to complete the inheritance paperwork. An older official with a tall frame and silver frames reviewed the documents, checked my ID, then spoke gently. Mrs. Adler was very meticulous. The inheritance file was prepared in 2015. She wrote to my niece, Catherine Miller, who reminds me of my younger self. May she never let anyone silence her. I gripped the edge of the desk. I never knew a message from the dead could make my heart ache like that. After a little over an hour, he handed me a stamped file. All Swiss assets will transfer after kinship verification. The Miami Beach condo transfers immediately. You may use that property starting today, he said. My condolences and congratulations as well. I thanked him, my voice hoarse. As I stepped out, shafts of sunlight cut through the leaves and fell across my shoulder. A cold breeze off the Potomac brought a strange calm. From this moment, I knew I wasn't cornered anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into the new account. The numbers showed 0 now, but in a few days, when the Zurich funds arrived, everything would change. I felt an unexpected peace. I put the new documents into my private lockbox, the metal one only I have a key to. I set it near the file cabinet and opened the household safe. We'd always shared this safe. Martin liked to brag to friends that my wife and I have no secrets. I smirked at the memory. Tonight, I set up biometric security fingerprint recognition for me alone. If Martin tries to open it, it'll lock for 10 minutes and sound an alert. I placed the most important items inside. Copies of the Capitol Hill condo papers, Zurich and Miami inheritance files, a copy of the $47,000 event email, a backup USB from the hair clip. When the door shut, it felt like I'd raised an invisible fortress around myself. Brianna texted near midnight. Preservation notice sent to First Federal. They'll freeze any suspicious activity from the joint account. Get some sleep. I replied. Thank you. Tomorrow I'll write an internal memo to my boss, Victor, just in case Martin stirs things up. Victor Lang is the CFO where I work. Strict but fair. I know if things blow up, he'll have my back as long as I can prove the truth. I sat at my desk and wrote a 2-page memo, clear and concise. I, Catherine Miller, am currently facing a severe marital crisis. There is a possibility my husband, Martin Cole, may engage in defamation or spread falsehoods to damage my professional reputation. I affirm that I will not allow personal matters to affect my work performance and will maintain professional ethics. However, I ask the company to be aware so as to avoid misunderstandings. I signed it, put the original in my file folder, and set it aside for Victor in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night. The clock ticked steadily on the wall like a distant heartbeat. I stepped onto the balcony, looking over the city lights stretching out. The evening downpour had washed the sky clean. Washington glittered under a damp haze. I closed my eyes and pictured myself in the new Miami condo. Windows facing the sea, waves rolling in, air salted with wild orange blossoms. No one there would mention age, wrinkles, or women in their 30s. There it would just be me, free and at peace. But I also knew that to get there I had to finish the play Martin was about to stage. He believed I'd crumble when shamed in public. He didn't know I'd already prepared Act 2, the reversal. I opened my notebook and added the final line under counterplan. Reversal speech for the party. Stay calm, no tears. Say little, hit hard. Cite lawful proof. Deed, inheritance, deceit evidence. End with, sometimes, 25 years still isn't enough for someone to learn honesty. I closed the notebook. The night went quiet, only wind slipping through the door frame. I sat in the dark, listening as my heartbeat grew steady again, slow, sure, like a woman who had taken back control of her life. And I told myself, Martin, you can set the stage, hire the band, rehearse your lines, but I will decide how the curtain falls. 2 days before the party, I decided to go to the Willard Hotel, the stage Martin chose for ending our marriage. I couldn't just sit and wait. I needed to know exactly where he'd strike, in front of whom, and how. The Willard, in the heart of Washington, D.C., was still as grand as a palace in the city. Gilded ceilings, marble inlays, a lobby blazing with crystal chandeliers. People call it the House of Historic Speeches. Maybe Martin liked that, standing before a crowd to deliver the speech he thought would mark his new chapter. I paused in the lobby, pretending to be a curious guest scouting a venue for a friend's anniversary. The front desk clerk smiled and led me to the grand ballroom. The doors opened, and the scent of polished wood and fresh wine mixed with white roses drifted in the air. In the center of the wide room was a small stage, a central mic hanging above with the Willard logo. I walked slowly, clocking every detail. The mic, position, the camera paths, the light angles. Everything pointed to the center where Martin would stand. I closed my eyes and pictured it. Hundreds seated around round tables, applause, the clink of silverware. Martin smiling, lifting the mic, declaring, 25 years is enough. I would lift my head, stand up, and flip the script on the spot. I opened my eyes and looked up at the ceiling audio system. Does this mic cover the whole room? I asked. The clerk smiled. Yes, ma'am. Our audio is checked daily. The central mic carries clearly to the very back. Perfect, I replied with a smile. As I stepped out of the grand ballroom, a voice came from behind. Catherine? Oh, what a coincidence. I turned. Tessa, the young woman Paige said had been ring shopping with Martin, stood there in a pale yellow dress, phone to her ear. She was nearly 20 years younger than me, carefully made up but with a nervous gleam in her eyes. She half smiled, cocked her head. Oh, I'm talking to the event manager. He says there's a big party this week for a couple who own a fancy Capitol Hill condo. Guess what they're hosting it here? Maybe you've heard? I kept my face even and smiled politely. Washington is small. Wish your friend good luck. Tessa let out a soft laugh and glanced down at her phone. Yeah, that condo will change owners soon. A woman should know when to let go. I looked her straight in the eye, the smile still there. And sometimes, a smart woman knows when to stay quiet so she can act. She hesitated, then gave a stiff smile and pretended to keep talking. I turned and walked away, my heartbeat slow and steady. At this point, I didn't feel anger, only pity. I stopped at the events desk, using the Friends celebration line to ask, could I see a cost sheet and seating chart? I want to understand how to arrange 100 guests. The manager, a tangent-skinned woman with a name tag that read, Monique, gladly handed me a printout. I bent over it, and my eyes stopped at the last line. Overflow table. Special guest. Grayson Hale, Esquire. I nearly laughed. Grayson Hale, divorce lawyer. Not only backing Martin but listed as a guest of honor. Ironic they planned to announce a divorce in public and invited the lawyer to witness it. I borrowed Monique's pen and circled the line on my copy. Thank you, I said. Everything is perfect. I'll book soon. Happy to help, ma'am. I stepped out of the hotel, the paper trembling in the wind. That afternoon, I sat in a cafe across the street and reviewed everything I'd gathered: seating chart, guest list, mic position. I opened notes on my phone and wrote, Martin speaks dead center in the light box, Tessa front right table, Lorraine table 3 near the stage, Hale overflow table, back exit left of the dais. I closed the notebook and sipped a cold coffee. The game was set. I only had to walk onto the board. When I got home, dusk had fallen. Martin wasn't back yet. Instead, I found Lorraine in the living room, legs crossed, teacup in hand. The scene reminded me of a courtroom where she'd made herself judge. "Oh, Catherine," she cooed, her sweetness almost chilling. "I just dropped this off for you." A free consultation voucher from Hale and Partners. They're very reputable. I think you should see them soon before anything unexpected happens. I took the envelope and saw the deep blue logo. Hale and Partners, family law experts, printed sharp. I smiled lightly. Thank you, Mother. I'll consider it. Lorraine set down her cup and studied me. You know, in marriage, whoever moves slower always loses. Yes, I said softly, eyes never leaving hers. That's why I always prepare first. She raised an eyebrow, not catching my meaning. When she left, I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the Hale and Partners voucher, and saved it to a folder named Flip File. Martin came home close to midnight, buzzing like he'd hit the jackpot. Kathy, you're going to love this, he said, shrugging off his coat and opening his laptop to show me a draft of his speech. I've been writing all week. That night, everyone will understand how things should end. Don't worry, I'll make it look good for both of us. I've learned that kind words can be the sharpest knives. Have you ever heard something that sounded gentle but shattered your heart? If you have, share a memory or feeling in the comments. Someone else might see themselves in your story. I looked at the screen. The title read, A New Chapter of Freedom. I swallowed my anger and smiled. Great, Martin. I've always trusted your way with words. He didn't realize I meant something else. He laughed, gave me a half hug, and headed upstairs. I stood in the living room, the laptop's glow reflecting in the window glass. My silhouette looked small but unyielding. He thought the knife was in his hand, but the real blade was in mine. The next morning, I gathered all critical papers into a brown leather envelope. Mr. Whitman's confirmation of the condo's funding source. Zurich and Miami files with transfer papers. Bank statements and notarized letters. I sealed it, put it in my bag, and did one last check. In the mirror, I saw a 55-year-old woman with a neat bun, clear eyes, and squared shoulders. Not someone afraid, someone ready for battle. Before leaving, I opened a drawer and took out an old backup phone. I turned on video mode and set it to auto-upload to the cloud. I'd wear it all night, hidden under a light coat. I didn't know how the party would end, but I knew this. Everything would be captured, every word, every glance, every second Martin dug his own hole. I stood in the hallway and caught the lavender scent from my scarf, my mother's favorite. I tightened my grip on the bag and told myself, I won't cry, Mom. I'll speak with the truth. Then I stepped out, leaving the quiet condo behind, ready for the biggest fight of my life, the one named the Willard. That night, the Willard blazed like a giant jewelry box in downtown Washington, D.C. As I stepped out of the car, the jazz band in the lobby was playing Moon River, the tune Martin once said he was sick of because it's old. I walked slowly under the crystal fixtures in a navy dress that fit cleanly, my hair pinned back. Not flashy, not showy, just enough that no one could dismiss me. A server bowed slightly. Good evening, Mrs. Cole. Your husband is welcoming guests in the grand ballroom. Thank you, I said with a small smile. My voice sounded steady, even though my heart thudded like it wanted to tear out of my chest. The ballroom glittered under the chandeliers. More than 100 guests were already there. Evening gowns, tuxedos, champagne flutes, polite laughter, an orchestra of pretense. At the center table, Martin was shaking hands with my boss, Victor Lang, and several colleagues from finance. I spotted Brianna, my attorney friend, seated toward the back, giving me the slightest nod. We're good. Lorraine, in a black dress stitched with silver, made her rounds, boasting at each table. My son has truly found the right path. A successful man needs someone who can keep up, not just stand beside him. I nearly laughed. She talked like I was a used item ready for clearance. Then, like a cold knife, the MC's voice cut through. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Mr. Martin Cole, the man of the night, celebrating 25 years of marriage. Applause echoed, glasses chimed. I took a long breath, scanning the room and memorizing faces. Tessa at the front table, smiling too brightly. The central mic was waiting. Martin stepped onto the stage. He adjusted his tie and flashed the smile. I knew too well the one for an audience, not for a wife. "Thank you, everyone," he began, full of confidence. 25 years. That's long and sometimes too long. Polite chuckles rippled. A few raised their glasses. "I used to think marriage was forever," Martin went on, "but I realized that sometimes what we call love is just a mistake of youth." I heard quick breaths nearby, then a few uneasy whispers. Martin kept smiling, calm as if delivering a keynote. "Catherine and I have been through a lot together. But time changes people. I've grown. I need someone who understands me more, someone more energetic, not someone drab, timid, afraid of change." I saw Lorraine lift her head and nod with pride. Tessa bit her lip, pretending to be moved. And my colleagues, the people who once respected me, were wide-eyed in shock. Martin held his head high. "That's why I want to make this public, in front of the people who matter most. Catherine and I will separate amicably. I propose we divide assets fairly. The Capitol Hill condo should belong to whoever can use it more effectively, and I believe I should be the one to keep living there. She needs a fresh start." A wave of murmurs rippled across the room. "Fairly?" someone muttered. "Right here? That's outrageous." I stayed seated. I only noticed the champagne glass in my hand felt a little cold. My boss, Victor Lang, frowned and turned toward Martin, but Martin kept talking, smug. "This isn't an ending, it's freedom for both of us. I hope you'll bless us. And wish Catherine well in finding what she deserves." A faint round of applause followed. I knew most of it came from people who didn't know what else to do. I set my glass on the table. The tap against the tray sounded hollow. I stood, walked slowly to the stage. My long dress brushed the marble floor. Every eye turned to me. "Excuse me," I said, low but clear. "I think I should say a few words too." Martin turned, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "Catherine, that's not necessary," he said under his breath, forcing a smile. "Don't make a scene." I raised my hand, light but firm. "You've talked for 10 minutes. I only need 3. The MC hesitated, looked at Martin, then back at me. I smiled, stepped forward, and asked for the mic. A breathless silence fell. The light reflected on my face. I looked around at the people who once believed in our model family, now stunned. I drew a slow breath and spoke, measured and deliberate. "Interesting to hear you talk about mistakes of youth, Martin. But if anyone here thinks I didn't know this was coming, you might be underestimating a woman who has lived 25 years under the same roof with you." A few whispers stirred in the room. Martin tried to smile, stepped up, reaching for the mic, but I shifted aside. "You said you want to divide the assets fairly." "Fine." I paused and glanced toward the corner. "But before we divide anything, why don't we ask your attorney, Mr. Grayson Hale, sitting right there, whether that condo belongs to you?" Heads turned. Grayson Hale, in a gray suit, froze, color draining from his face. Martin jolted. "Catherine, what nonsense are you talking about?" I pulled a brown envelope from my bag. The rustle of paper carried through the mic. "I won't waste anyone's time. This is a confirmation from Whitman Law, who handled the condo purchase in 1999. The funds were transferred directly from Mr. and Mrs. Miller's account. My parents, and the deed listed only my name before you were added 2 months after our wedding. By law, that's premarital property. You have no legal claim unless you prove you paid for major improvements and you never put in a cent." The room felt vacuumed of air. A man at the front table let out an, "Oh my God!" I went on, calm. "And there's more. If you still want to talk, division of assets. I'm afraid we'll need a few more numbers." I opened the envelope and pulled out 3 more pages. This is an inheritance file from a Zurich notary, confirming I'm the sole heir of my aunt, Margaret Adler, including a condo in Zurich, a bank account with more than 800,000 Swiss francs, and a Miami Beach condo worth more than $1,300,000. Total value over $3 million. A murmur swept the room. Tessa went pale, Lorraine's jaw dropped, and Martin, he stood frozen, eyes blown wide in disbelief. I gave a small smile. So, dear, I don't need a fresh start. I already have one. And the Capitol Hill condo you can keep dreaming. Silence fell, the background music ticking on like a taunt. Martin forced a wobbling smile, voice shaking. Catherine, did you set this up ahead of time? Are you trying to embarrass me? I tilted my head, voice soft. No, Martin. You did that yourself. I just turned on the light. A burst of applause rose from the back, where Brianna sat. Others joined. Victor Lang stood, arms crossed, and nodded. Mrs. Cole, he said loudly, I think you've just taught us a lesson in backbone and preparation. I smiled, thanking him with my eyes. Martin ducked his head, face burning. Lorraine looked around, trying to say something, but no one listened. And Tessa, the one who'd bragged a big condo, would soon be hers, sat bowed, her glass trembling in her hand. I lowered the mic, steady but firm. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm sorry the program changed. But sometimes, the truth needs to be said, even if it ruins a party. I set the mic down and turned from the stage amid rising chatter. Behind me, Martin called out, voice cracking, Catherine, you can't. I stopped, looked back, gaze level and cold. You're right, Martin. 25 years is enough. But the one leaving the condo isn't me. I walked, out of the grand ballroom to scattered applause that was spreading an echo both painful and freeing. The doors closed behind me, and I knew the silver night had ended a marriage, but opened a life of freedom. I stood beneath the Willards' crystal lights, mic in hand, feeling hundreds of eyes on me, shock, curiosity, confusion, and the second-hand shame for a man who'd just slapped his own reputation. The air was heavy, like a pane of glass. Martin was still on the dais, slack-faced, mouth open with no words. I heard Lorraine at table 3 whisper, "Oh, God," as if she'd just watched her own dream collapse. Holding the mic, my voice rang clear, calm, but edged in steel. You're right about one thing, Martin. 25 years is enough. But unlike you, I didn't spend 25 years lying. I spent them learning to see the truth and protect myself. A few wows popped from a corner. Someone whispered, "What is happening?" I opened my bag and took out the brown file I'd prepared. My hands didn't shake. I lifted the first page, the red seal bold for all to see. This is a confirmation from Whitman Law, the firm that handled the Capitol Hill condo purchase in 1999. According to the legal documents, the funds came directly from my parents' account, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. The only name on the original title was Catherine Miller, that's me. 2 months after the wedding, the name Martin Cole was added as a second co-owner, not a purchaser. By law, this condo is a premarital gift and cannot be split in any divorce proceeding. I lowered the page and looked straight at Martin. My voice was no longer gentle. So you can only touch half the old cabin in Virginia and half the Lexus. Everything else you have no claim. A fresh wave of whispers spread. Guests in the back leaned in to murmur. Someone even let out a disbelieving laugh. Martin stepped forward, voice shaking. Catherine, are you turning a party into a courtroom? I tilted my head, a cool smile. No, Martin. I'm repeating the truth you tried to hide. If it embarrasses you, that's not my fault. I set the file on the table and pulled the second stack. 3 weeks ago, I received an inheritance letter from Zurich. My aunt, Margaret Adler, passed away and left me everything. A Zurich condo valued at 1,200,000 Swiss francs. A Credit Suisse account with more than 800,000 francs, and a Miami Beach condo worth more than $1,300,000. Total value is over $3 million, including more than $1 million in cash already transferred to my personal account. Chairs scraped. Eyes widened. A few women whispered, "She's wealthier than we thought." I looked around, voice even, so if anyone here thinks I'm clinging to the Capitol Hill condo because I'm afraid of losing a roof, sorry. I have 2 places to live, and one of them faces the ocean. Tessa, the oh-so-young marketing assistant, stiffened, her face drained, lips trembling like she'd swallowed ice. Lorraine sat frozen, gripping her wineglass until it shattered, red splashing her dress. I took a long breath and said, "But that isn't the best part. For 3 weeks I've known your script. Every line you planned to say, every step you meant to take, every word you'd use to humiliate me. And I recorded it all." The room went pin-drop quiet. I touched the silver hair clip, slid it free. One end popped open, revealing a neatly hidden USB. I plugged it into the DJ's laptop and nodded to the tech. The big screen behind me lit up. On it, texts between Martin and Tessa. "After the anniversary, the condo is ours. You promise, Dee? I don't want to hide forever. Don't worry. Mom talked to Hale. She'll sign the waiver." A chorus of gasps. Then the next clip. A voicemail over the speakers. Lorraine's voice, cold. "Dee, I've spoken with Mr. Hale. Everything's arranged as long as she signs the waiver. Let the party handle the rest. She won't dare push back." A few guests' jaws dropped. Someone said, "Oh my." Martin lurched toward the screen, shouting, "Turn it off." "Who gave you this?" I raised a hand, still even. "You spent $47,000 of our shared savings on this party, not to celebrate love, but to publicly shame me." "So, Martin, it's only fair everyone sees who the liar is." The room erupted in whispers. People stared at Martin like he'd just been unmasked. I addressed the guests, colleagues, friends, family who'd watched our marriage from day one. "Ladies and gentlemen, I don't need pity. I need the truth. I spent 25 years in silence, thinking staying quiet protected happiness. Today I know. Silence in the face of deceit only empowers the cruel. I'm not here to beg for sympathy. I'm here to assert my legal rights, my moral rights, and my right to be respected like anyone else." Scattered claps spread, then swelled. A few people stood. I saw Brianna lift her head, pride in her eyes. At the back, Grayson Hale, the divorce lawyer, shot to his feet and tried to slip out. Guests near the door blocked him. "Is he Martin's lawyer?" someone called out. "Exactly," I said, voice sharp. "And he's the one who set up the plan to force me to sign away my property." Hale ducked his head, stammering, I'm only following my client's requests." A tall man looked like one of Victor's guests stepped in front of him. "Men like you disgrace the profession." Hale bowed and slunk off under a fog of contempt. I turned to Victor Lang. He was still at the front table, gaze stern. When I finished, he stood and looked straight at Martin. "Martin Cole," his voice like a gavel. "I don't know what made you think you could do this in front of colleagues, clients, and leadership. But trust me, we'll be reviewing your position at the company." Martin blanched, fists clenched. "Victor, please let me explain." "No need." Victor cut him off, turning to me. "Catherine, I'm sorry to witness this, but I admire how you handled it calm, evidential, and with your dignity intact." I nodded my thanks, my throat tight not from tears but from dignity restored. The room was silent as I stepped down. Martin tried, "Catherine, don't go. We can talk." I stopped and looked him in the eye. "We've said enough, Martin. You spoke with lies." "I spoke with truth, and tonight the truth won." I set the mic on the table. The soft click sounded like a period. No one said a word, only the stray music and lights bouncing off the glossy floor. I walked out, back straight, chin lifted. Behind me, voices rose, whispers, sighs, someone clapping again. When the big door closed, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Bright eyes, a steady face, a slight smile. Tonight I didn't just reclaim a condo, honor, or assets. I reclaimed myself, the woman who once thought silence was safe and now knows the truth, even late, is the brightest light. As the grand ballroom doors shut behind me, the inside exploded. Noise spilled through the gap glass breaking, a rush of chatter. Someone shouted, "Get this on video! My God, is this real?" Another voice jumped in. "She's right. I've seen him with that woman more than once." I stood on the marble corridor, the big mirror throwing back warm gold light. Behind the glass, the storm was starting. Inside, chaos. Phones out, gossip, curses, and bitter laughs pelted the gala like hail. Martin stood stranded on stage, white-lipped, trembling as if slapped. He tried to speak, but the mic lay where I'd left it. No one wanted to hear him. I heard Tessa, shrill and furious, "Say it, Martin! Tell them she made it up!" Then a sharp crack, she slammed a glass on the table, voice shaking, out of control. "You said you'd pay off the debt. You said you'd get me the condo. You borrowed $20,000 from Chase, $15,000 from Wells Fargo, and then $8,000 from those fast credit places to keep me, didn't you?" The room blew up. A man blurted, "Oh my God, he's in debt." A woman turned to her friend. "And he still threw a $47,000 party?" Unreal. Martin stumbled off the stage, reaching for Tessa's hand. She yanked away, nearly shouting, "You think I'm crazy enough to stay with a bankrupt mess?" Near the stage, Lorraine lurched to her feet, face flushed, hands shaking. "What? Bank loans?" she screamed, voice cracking. "What have you done to my life, Martin?" Phone swung toward her, catching it all, the mother collapsing, the son stunned, the young lover shrinking as her mask was stripped. Lorraine sank back down, clutching her head, muttering to herself, "I mortgaged the house to pay. Your legal fees. And now it's all gone." No one dared move closer. They just watched, like a play they never expected to see. Some had already started posting. I heard keyboard taps. Someone reading out captions. Number Silver Night Trader. The Willards Trader in a Silver Night. 25 years of marriage ends in a financial and affair scandal. Within minutes, I knew that hashtag would be spreading online. Nothing is crueler than public opinion once it chooses a side, and tonight it chose the side of truth. Grayson Hale, the divorce lawyer, had vanished. A hotel staffer hurried to his table, flustered. "Mrs. Lorraine," the guest at this table, left without settling his bill. Lorraine only stared, beyond words. A security guard approached, radio in hand, and spoke quietly. "Mrs. Cole, the man who exited the east lobby, got into a car and isn't returning." "That's fine," I said softly. "Let him go. The law will find him one day." The rear doors opened. My boss, Victor Lang, stepped out, stride steady though his face was tight with anger. He stopped in front of me, voice rough but sincere. "Catherine, are you all right?" I smiled and nodded. "I am, Victor. More than ever." He exhaled. "Let me say this, no matter what, I'm on your side. No one deserves this, least of all someone with your backbone." "Thank you," I said. "Honestly, tonight isn't just an ending. It's a release." Victor squeezed my shoulder, respect warm in his eyes, then waved a few colleagues to head out. I called a cab. The driver was an older man, maybe 70, wearing a cap, gentle smile. He opened the door with a small nod. "Lovely night, ma'am. These fancy events always make folks happy." I slid into the back seat, smiled lightly, eyes on the golden shards of the Willard in the window. "Yes," I said softly, "a lovely night. Because it changed my life." He glanced at me in the rear view with a kind smile. Not many people can say that with real peace in their voice. I answered quietly, "Peace comes from knowing you've said enough." The car eased down Pennsylvania Avenue. I leaned back, watching the bright building recede. Inside, everything was still breaking. Martin was trying to scoop up the scraps. I knew because, just before I left, I'd seen him kneel beside Tessa, hand shaking at her dress. "Please don't go. I'll explain, But Tessa shook him off, eyes cold as steel. "Explain what? You think I'm stupid? I won't shoulder your debt. I won't have my name tied to yours. And, Martin, Catherine is the one worth respecting." I heard it clearly, echoing through the half-closed door. Martin stood there, stunned, shoulders collapsed, while Tessa turned and walked away. Lorraine still sat there, hands on her head, voice trembling. "What have you done to my life?" "You've killed the family's honor." No one answered. Staff had started clearing the Fallon. Tables. Spoons, forks, and glasses clinked like metal on a coffin lid. A group of younger guests walked by, talking openly. "He really tried to serve divorce papers during the anniversary?" "Yep, and got owned on the spot. I recorded it. It's definitely going viral. The hashtag Silver Night Trader is already trending." Those words rang like the final hammer blow to Martin's reputation. I leaned my head against the window, watching the slow stream of night traffic. In the reflection, my face no longer showed anger or bitterness, only stillness remained. I didn't see victory, I only saw that I was free. Free from a hollow marriage, free from the empty shell of CEO's wife, free from the kind of love I'd tried to salvage for half a lifetime. I knew that once tonight passed, everything would change. The press might come, social media might buzz, but I wasn't afraid anymore, because the only thing that mattered was that I hadn't let anyone rewrite the story of my life but me. The cab stopped in front of the Capitol Hill condo, the home that once symbolized our marriage, now the fortress of my independence. I paid and thanked the driver. He looked at me for a moment and said, "I don't know what happened in there, but you walked out like someone who just beat the whole world." I let out a small laugh. "No, sir. I only beat myself." He nodded, pulled away, and left me standing under the soft amber streetlight. I looked up at my condo, the place where I had cried, laughed, and been afraid. Now it was quiet, steady, as if waiting for me to return. Tonight, a chapter closed to applause and whispers. But for me, it wasn't a curtain fall, it was the opening cue for a life that was free, strong, and no longer controlled by anyone. And inside the Willard, far behind me, Martin, the man who once believed he was the director of this play, was now just a failed actor in the tragedy he wrote for himself. 3 months after, the silver night at the Willard, I stepped into another place that was just as bright and eerily quiet, Courtroom 4 at the District of Columbia Courthouse. Instead of crystal lights and violins, there was only the smell of paper, polished wood, and the steady tap of a gavel, sounds not meant for feelings, only for truth and law. I sat at the petitioner's table with Brianna Patel, my college friend, now my attorney, beside me. Her hair was tied back, eyes sharp, voice firm. She looked more like a warrior than the woman who used to eat midnight pizza with me before exams. Across from us sat Martin in an old, wrinkled suit. No confident smile, no executive swagger. He sat still, head slightly bowed, eyes drifting like a man who'd lost his compass. In the row behind him, Lorraine huddled with a tissue in hand. No one looked at them with admiration anymore. Judge Rebecca Yates, a silver-haired woman with a stern face, looked up at both sides. "We are hearing the divorce case of Catherine Miller Cole and Martin Cole," Case number 2025, D1472. Have the parties agreed to the basic terms? Brianna rose, composed. Your Honor, the petitioner, Mrs. Catherine, agrees to a no-fault divorce. However, we request a clear determination of property and personal debt under the law based on specific financial evidence. The judge nodded. Very well. We'll start with property. Brianna opened her case file and produced a stamped packet from Whitman and Associates. Your Honor, this legal document from Whitman Law, dated 1999, confirms that the Capitol Hill condo was purchased entirely with funds transferred directly from the account of Mr. and Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Catherine's parents. The condo was originally titled solely in Mrs. Catherine's name. 2 months after the wedding, Mr. Martin's name was added as a second co-owner, not as a purchaser, under D.C. Family Law, Section 200. 2. Subsection 4. Property gifted or inherited prior to marriage is considered separate property and is not divided upon divorce. She set the paperwork on the bench. Judge Yates lifted it, checked the seal, and gave a slight nod. Properly documented. Does the respondent object? Martin's attorney, a thin, harried man with a rough voice, stood and tried to push back. Your Honor, my client believes the condo was jointly used for 25 years. Therefore, the judge cut in. Shared use is not the same as shared financial ownership. Without evidence that Mr. Cole made substantial contributions to the property's value, the court cannot treat it as marital property. Is there any proof that Mr. Cole invested in, renovated, or paid for major improvements? The lawyer faltered. No, Your Honor. Only ordinary living expenses. Then the court recognizes the Capitol Hill condo as the separate property of Mrs. Catherine Miller Cole. It will not be divided. I felt my shoulders lighten. Martin dropped his gaze, hands clenched, as if trying to hold on to something slipping away. The judge continued. And the Virginia cabin and the Lexus? Brianna answered. Both were purchased after the marriage using joint funds, so we agree to split them equally as required. Very well, the judge said. Debts? Brianna opened her laptop and presented a detailed summary. Your Honor, 3 debts are listed on Mr. Talatiti. Martin Cole's credit file. $20,000 from Chase, $15,000 from Wells Fargo, and $8,000 from a fast credit company called Evercash. Total, $43,000. According to the spending records, most of these funds were used for personal transactions, specifically gifts, restaurant bills, hotel bookings, and a $47,000 event payment at the Willard Hotel, none of which had my client's consent. The judge turned to Martin. Mr. Cole, do you confirm this? Martin swallowed, voice husky. I may have overspent, but... She cut him off. No but. The court finds these are personal debts incurred independently and not for the family's benefit. Mr. Relistord. Cole is fully responsible. Behind him, Lorraine whispered. Oh, Lord. Martin bowed his head, shoulders sagging. I stayed still, hands lightly clasped to keep calm. Brianna went on, Your Honor, we also submit a digital evidence set, screenshots of messages between Mr. Cole and Miss Tessa Hill, a voicemail from Mrs. Lorraine Cole, and the invoices confirming event costs and the loans. She handed a USB to the clerk and added, These materials have been authenticated by a digital forensics technician. They show the money was used entirely for a relationship outside the marriage. The judge glanced through a few images and shook her head. Incredible, she said, voice cool and stern. A $47,000 $47.40. Divorce party? Mr. Cole, the court considers the law and conduct. You violated both. Brianna dipped her head in thanks. I met her eyes. No words, only deep gratitude. Martin still grabbed for one last thread of hope. He stood, voice rough. "Your Honor, I'm unemployed. I lost my position after the incident. I request temporary spousal support from Mrs. Catherine because she has greater assets." A ripple moved through the courtroom. Brianna arched a brow and replied at once, "Your Honor, my client was financially independent before and after the marriage. Furthermore, under D.C. family law, Section 309, to receive support, the requesting party must show financial dependence or substantial contribution to the other party's career. Mr. Cole was not dependent and in fact misused Mrs. Catherine's assets without permission. Therefore, this request is baseless." The judge tapped the gavel lightly. Request for support denied. Martin sank into his seat, hand over his face. Lorraine turned away, eyes shut tight. After nearly 2 hours, Judge Rebecca Yates brought down the gavel. The District of Columbia hereby dissolves the marriage of Catherine Miller Cole and Martin Cole effective today. Separate property is recognized as a matter of law. The cabin and vehicle are split equally. All personal debts of Mr. Cole are his alone. The record will be filed publicly. The sound was dry and final, but to me, it rang like a bell of release. I squeezed Brianna's hand. She smiled, the kind of smile that knows every step of the last 3 months, every document, every email, every meeting led to this moment. I whispered, "You stayed on target. Not a single arrow missed." "Not me," Brianna said. "You, the one patient enough to see it through." That afternoon, the Washington Ledger ran a short piece on the Society page. Silver anniversary upset CEO Martin Cole loses home and job after what's being called the year's most stunning reversal. Hundreds of comments followed. One read, "Life turns fast. Never underestimate a quiet woman." Another said, "Catherine Miller should teach how to counterpunch with the law." I smiled, not gloating, just relieved. I screenshotted the article and filed it in a folder named Ending 2025. I closed my laptop and looked out the window. Autumn in Washington, stretched in amber. I thought, in the end, justice doesn't need to be loud, it only needs to be steady and on time. My story, a 25-year marriage ending in a courtroom, wasn't a tragedy, it was a wake-up bell. Even in silence, if we stand with the truth, the scales of justice eventually tip our way. I once heard someone say that the reckoning doesn't always come with a gavel strike, but with the days after, when honor, money, and pride slip away from a person like the last leaves of the season. For Martin, that began just 2 weeks after the hearing. The video of him being exposed at the Willard had already spread online. A guest posted it on a personal account with a simple caption, "Husband announces divorce at an anniversary party and wife counters with proof of assets, inheritance, and an affair." Within 48 hours, the clip passed 4 million views. Entertainment feeds shared it with blazing headlines, "Silver Night Scandal," the anniversary upset that stunned Washington. Under every post were thousands of cutting laughs. A CEO who never read family law? Serves him right for belittling the woman he vowed to love. Catherine Miller, icon of clear-headed strength. I didn't watch it all. Once was enough to know every lie eventually finds daylight. 3 days later, I received a brief email from my boss, Victor Lang, who had witnessed that night. "Catherine, you should know the board voted unanimously to terminate Martin Cole's contract. No one wants the company tied to that kind of moral scandal. Rest assured, this isn't about you." He forfeited his